Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to FP1. And now last night we got the breaking news that Sebastian Vettel will be leaving Ferrari at the end of the 2020 season. Now this of course throws major questions into the ring. Firstly, who's going to replace Vettel? Will Vettel retire? And if not, where could he go? I'm obviously gassed about this. I made a video on it just about 4 days ago. So brilliant timing, I guess. I feel like the entire channel has just been Vettel related recently. But I'm here with Reece today just to talk through this breaking news. Now, Reece, what was your first, initial reaction to the news last night?
Well, hello everyone. Well, what can you say about it, really? It was very shocking to see it, because obviously we knew that they were in negotiations, and, you expect Ferrari and Vettel to come to an agreement that is just, it's become normal now that Vettel is a Ferrari driver. So seeing that not be the case anymore is definitely something that's going to be weird seeing next year, I suppose. But I'm looking forward to seeing who will be the next Ferrari driver.
Yeah, of course, in 5 years, 14 wins, but he never quite got that championship that he wanted. Of course, Vettel came to Ferrari in 2015, hoping to emulate his hero Michael Schumacher and take home a championship for Ferrari and be the first driver since Kimi Raikkonen back in 2007. It has been that long since Ferrari won the Drivers' World Championship. It's been ages. And it just never really came into fruition. So 2017, 2018, perhaps the years that really got away from him. But yeah, it's just a shame. I do feel bad for Sebastian in a way, and also the fact that this kind of news came out before he was able to announce it himself. Now, I guess the first question in everyone's mind: will he retire? Personally, I don't think so, and my reasoning for that is I feel like Ferrari would have either let him announce that first, or the announcement would come at the same time. Vettel leaving Ferrari and Vettel retiring would come together. What do you think? Is this the end for Sebastian, or could there be another chance?
I think he'll downgrade like Kimi has, but not to the same level.
Okay.
Because obviously I'm looking at the Ferrari official announcement, and it does say Scuderia Ferrari mission went out and Sebastian Vettel decided not to extend their contract. That definitely says Vettel is staying in Formula One. But will he go to, say, Alfa Romeo and join up with Kimi again?
Oh, that would be
or will he replace Kimi at Alfa Romeo and they bring in a new driver? It's just off the top of my head.
I hadn't thought about Alfa Romeo, and perhaps that is an option, Obviously, the 2021 budget cap, any team really could come in and start taking the fight to the top teams. Now, Alfa, I don't think perhaps in the prime position to do that. I feel like maybe Renault, McLaren, and Aston Martin, as they will be from next year, those are the three teams that, for me, could make that bigger step up. That's just my personal opinion. You never know. We could see a team lower down the grid really make a flying start with the new regs in 2022. You just never know with F1. But I feel like if Vettel, if Vettel was going to go anywhere, it's got to be one of those three teams. And Aston, they've got Stroll, who's always going to be in that team until he retires, and Perez is locked down in contract. So unless Perez goes the other way to Ferrari, which I've seen a few people talking about, but I don't think it's the most realistic option, I feel like that's out of the question. McLaren and Renault are the two, I don't know, the two more likely locations for me. In that a few months ago, and I mentioned this in the Sebastian Vettel video the other day, but a few months ago, Ferrari came out and said that if Vettel were to retire, then the two drivers that are on their wish list are Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo. Now, if either of those drivers were to leave, that leaves a spot at McLaren and at Renault, and that would fit in quite well there. I'd be honest. What do you think?
I think, I don't know, because I feel like Vettel's step away from Ferrari is almost a step away from the top spot. So he doesn't really want to stay fighting for the win every single week, week in, week out, with Leclerc and Hamilton and Bottas and Verstappen as well. So I feel like he's looking towards the team with almost the least potential so that he can sit in that mid-pack and enjoy himself.
Okay.
And I would say that's more likely to be Renault, actually, rather than
I think that makes sense. And if I had to, well, I mean, whether Carlos Sainz or Ricciardo would go there, or go the other way to Ferrari, I mean, my head and my heart say different things. Obviously, my heart, being a massive Danny Rick fan, wants Daniel to get into that seat, but I think my head is saying Sainz might be the better option in that his form, I guess, has been better. I mean, we've not really seen what Ricciardo could properly do in that Renault yet, and I guess we would have seen it by now had we not had this COVID-19 situation go down. But I think, you know, Sainz had a fantastic breakout year last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe I feel like he deserves this shot as well. He got, obviously, passed up for that Red Bull seat back in 2016. And, you know, again, he was then effectively booted out of the Red Bull Driver Academy because there was just no space for him. And he deserves a top-tier car, Sainz does. He really is a top-tier driver. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got that seat. I think he could be the one to either if Leclerc has a bad day, Sainz could pick up a win. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sainz picked up a championship. If someone came up to me from the future and said Sainz will win a world championship with Ferrari, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, to be honest.
I guess the other team that we could see Vettel go to, let's just quickly go back to that point, and it is, you know, we've heard about this Hamilton, you know, will Hamilton go to Ferrari? Hamilton's not signed his contract. We were talking just before we started recording. There's still no confirmation that Hamilton will be at Mercedes next year, even though a lot of people think it's a done deal. Could this change things? Could we see Hamilton go to Ferrari and then perhaps Mercedes say, you know what, let's give Vettel a shot?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure of that because they have been so strong with Hamilton, and I think the trust and sort of the bond that they've built with Hamilton over the years is just that strong. And I think that the entire team is comfortable with Bottas being there as well. So I don't think he would go to Mercedes at all. And on top of that, Sebastian Vettel, I think something to really note is he didn't like it when Mark Webber started to get stronger and to compete. This is nothing against Sebastian because I totally understand how he probably feels within the car with racing and stuff like that. When Mark Webber started to be competitive up at the top, he was looking more outside of Red Bull. When Danny Rick started to compete with him at Red Bull, he wanted to leave. And now that Leclerc is really competitive at Ferrari, is this another sign of that situation? So he wants to be another number one driver at a lower team so that he stays at number one.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, this will be Vettel's last season with a top team, at least as it stands now. If he joins another team and they become a top team, maybe that's a different story. But it's a tricky situation, you know, and it's tricky. I don't know who could go where, and this is going to definitely open up the driver market as well.
For sure. Yeah.
And you know, we were thinking this could be a bit of a boring one when we saw, you know, Leclerc and Verstappen had been locked down. I mean, even Verstappen, you know, you can buy drivers out of contract. I don't think that'll happen personally. I mean, but like I said, anything can happen in Formula 1. We could see Pastor Maldonado come back for all we know. Grosjean could be option. And I guess the other serious option that we've not spoken about yet is Antonio Giovinazzi. Now, he is obviously an Italian driver. He's with Alfa Romeo as well. And that team's obviously quite strongly linked with Ferrari. He got that seat because that's the seat that Ferrari control in that team. Yeah. And also you've got drivers like Mick Schumacher and Robert Schwartzman coming up the ranks. Gio's seat next year is going to be under threat anyway. Yes. Given that, you know, there is a very competitive Ferrari driver pool that's not ready for the top team yet, but it is ready to kind of make that step into Formula 1.
Yeah.
And, you know, could this is going to be Ferrari's, I guess, last chance to have an Italian driver in that team for a while. There aren't that many other Italian drivers in the lower formula.
That is true.
That are coming out. So could we see Ferrari kind of take the gamble and have Gio as that solid number 2 driver? Personally, I don't think so. I think that Gio's not done enough for that seat, and people like Ricciardo or Sainz are the better option. But we know Ferrari are very much into their patriotism and flying the flag for Italy.
Yeah, for sure.
Could this work?
I think on a nationality front, yes, because obviously Italy. Yeah, on that front, I think it could work because it would generate instant synergy within the team between Gio and basically everyone else. But in terms of raw pace, I think it'd be another situation with Red Bull where Verstappen was still up at the top while everyone else that was trying to fit into that second seat was really, really struggling to keep up because they weren't Danny Rick. So you had Gasly and then Albon, who has done really, really well in his stint at the top in Red Bull.
But you could argue that he's still not quite the level that Daniel
he's still
was.
not quite there. Yeah. So if Gio went up to Ferrari, would they go back to the time or go back to a similar situation where it's Leclerc who is right up at the top because he's just got that raw pace and he's just that talented, and then you've got Gio who is lagging behind and maybe he's having battles with Albon in the Red Bull, and maybe he has to make sure that he stays ahead of the mid-pack.
Yeah, and that's a good point as well, because if we go back through Ferrari's history and when it comes to signing drivers, you've got, obviously, Schumacher and Barrichello, I think, is possibly the most iconic partnership of recent years.
Yeah,
and that worked really well because, obviously, Schumacher was that number 1 driver and Barrichello was that perfect number 2. Yeah. And he would do anything for the team, and he knew if he didn't, he'd lose his seat. Now, that kind of continued, I guess, with Kimi and Massa. There was perhaps a slightly more even partnership, but it worked quite well. Then, obviously, we moved into Massa and Alonso. And at that point, again, Alonso was that number 1 driver. Massa was definitely the number 2 at that point. Yeah. I think sadly after his accident in 2009, Massa wasn't quite what he was before. And so filling that number 2 role became a little bit easier for him.
Yeah.
Then, obviously, we had Vettel and Kimi, I think, is the next big partnership that lasted a while. And again, you got your solid number 1 and your solid number 2 in Kimi.
Yeah.
And then Vettel and Leclerc came around. And this was a little bit different because although we expected Leclerc to be that number 2, it very quickly became apparent that wasn't going to be the case. And, and Leclerc really took the fight to Vettel. And that's really why this has come about. Because Ferrari have kind of looked at the option and said, you know what? We've got a lead driver now and it's not Seb. We can rely on Charles for the future.
Yeah, we can look for someone else.
So now, I guess they do have to look at it and think: do we want to have a repeat of 2019, where we've got a driver that's, we've got 2 drivers that are very competitive and will want that equal status, or do we go back to previous, which has worked, obviously in the early 2000s, but obviously it then didn't work, I guess, in the last decade, where you got solid number 1 and the solid number 2, and I guess that's where Gio would fit in, but I would be disappointed if Gio got that seat. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like he doesn't deserve it, and he's not done enough to really prove that he's a top tier driver.
Yeah. I mean, he's proved plenty enough to deserve a seat in Formula 1, not necessarily in Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's credit to Gio. He's had a rough time. Let's put it that way. But he's been pretty solid for Alfa Romeo, but he wouldn't be quick enough for Ferrari because the way you can look at the Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello situation is Michael was number 1 driver by far, but Rubens was pretty close to that second driver spot. So you sort of, in that era, you had the best two drivers, and you had the second best driver as your second driver. So, in that sense, is that what you want again for Ferrari? Because if you have, say, Leclerc and Carlos, then you've got a lot closer to that situation, and because they're both up and coming, and they're really engaged in the sport, can they put in their enthusiasm, their knowledge, and everything else that they bring with them into developing the car further to make sure that it's miles ahead of that Mercedes, so that they can be that partnership yet again. Just obviously this time closer, so you have Carlos who can actually challenge for those victories.
Yeah, definitely. I guess as a final point, then I'm just going to chuck out who I think is going to take that seat. I'm going to say Vettel's going to retire, and but not necessarily by choice. I think he will try and get a spot in another team, but he won't be able to get it. I'm going to say Carlos Sainz takes the other seat in the Ferrari. What are you thinking?
Oh, well, I think it's going to be a sort of a rotation between Ferrari, McLaren, and Renault.
Okay.
I have a feeling that isn't Kimi's contract running out this season?
It is, yeah. Kimi is out of contract.
I feel like Kimi will retire this year, sadly. And it will actually be Mick Schumacher that moves up into Kimi's spot, and we see that partnership ready for maybe 2-3 years when Carlos Sainz goes back to McLaren.
Ooh.
Vettel retires. Daniel Ricciardo goes back to Renault, who Renault is now a top team, and then Mick Schumacher goes up into the Ferrari. I think that's how it'll work.
There you go, guys. Place your bets. That's it. If that happens, we will come back to this video in 2 or 3 years' time, and we will be famous. Well, you will be famous anyway. But yeah, that was all from me and Reece. Reece, thanks again for joining me on the channel. Always a pleasure to have you on. Now, guys, what I want you to do is let me know down in the comments below where you think Vettel's going to end up and what ramifications you think this might have on the driver market going forward. Thank you so much for watching, and it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Cool. Have a lovely rest of your week, guys, and I will see you in the next one.